Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. Welcome to our Thirukkolur Penpillai Rahasyam episode number 60. In the last episode, we saw Rahasyam number 59. Now, this episode is going to be a bit different. We are not going to go into the next Rahasyam verse as such, because the next two Rahasyams, Rahasyam number 60 and 61, requires a connecting story. It is an incident which happened in the life of Swami Ramanuja. So verse 60 and verse 61 are actually interlinked with this connecting story. So the thought process was to go ahead with that connecting story, the main story, in today's episode, so that in the next episode we can take verses 60 and 61 with reference to this story. Now, verses 60 and 61, they are related to events which happen in the life of Swami Ramanuja himself. So Thirukkolur Penpillai is actually narrating, or she is actually pulling out a couple of instances and couple of personalities associated with Swami Ramanuja and benchmarks herself in verses 60 and 61. Now, to get back to this main story or connecting plot, it so happens at a point in time in Swami Ramanuja's life that he and his disciples had to undergo a lot of pain because of religious fanaticism or religious intolerance. Now, religious intolerance is something which has existed throughout the world for a long time. It is not something which is new, though we may be a lot more aware because of the prevalence of media, social media. We see instances of religious intolerance getting reported throughout. But even in that, unfortunately, even though this practice is followed throughout the world, somehow our nation gets a bad tag for being intolerant. Whereas every country, this practice does exist, where an individual or say group of individuals, they have their own chosen path, they have a God which they worship, but they can't stand, they can't tolerate others who follow different paths, others who worship different gods. Now, shouldn't worship or following a particular spiritual path be each individual's choice? Why do people try to interfere into others' spiritual paths, spiritual ways? They criticize, they condemn, they use force, they may give money, they may give supplies, and ensure that way, in a way, they brainwash people of other faiths to come and follow their own faith. Now, this is something which Swami Ramanuja had to see thousands of years back. So what happens here is, when Swami Ramanuja was living in Sri Rangam, there was a particular dynasty, Chola dynasty. So those kings ruled, or Sri Rangam was under their rule at that point in time. There was this particular Chola king who followed a particular path, and he hated the worshippers of Lord Vishnu. Now this sounds a lot more similar to the demon king Hiranyakashipu, who couldn't stand or who hated Lord Vishnu, the followers of Lord Vishnu, and as fate would have it, he had his own son Prahalada, who was one of the best devotees of Lord Vishnu himself. Something like that here. So this king couldn't tolerate the worshippers of Lord Vishnu, and Swami Ramanuja, he was a staunch devotee of Lord Vishnu. Now Swami Ramanuja, because of his easy preachings, his way or his path was very simple, he was easily accessible to people. He worked a lot for the downtrodden masses. So because of all this, his fame started spreading far and wide. He had undertaken a lot of religious tours. So his fame started spreading far and wide, and no doubt he enjoyed immense popularity in Srirangam, spiritual popularity. Now, this king couldn't stand this popularity, let us put it this way, and then he wanted that Swami Ramanuja should come and accept his faith. That way, his own path, the king's own path would flourish. With that, he issues an order. He sends some of his soldiers to Swami Ramanuja's ashram, Mutt, and he asks those soldiers to get Swami Ramanuja to the court. Now, when the soldiers arrive there, Swami Ramanuja's disciples actually give him the news that the king's soldiers are here. So one of the disciples, who goes by the name Kuratalvan or Kuresa in short, he approached Swami Ramanuja. He tells him that if Swami Ramanuja actually goes to the court of the king would have some kind of a malified intention. He would harm Swami Ramanuja. So he did a lot of convincing. That is, Kuresa convinces Swami Ramanuja to go into sort of a self-exile, where he moves out of Srirangam, and Kuresa himself offers to go to the court disguised as Swami Ramanuja himself. So Swami Ramanuja found it a bit difficult, but considering the circumstances and the environment which was prevalent at that point in time, he agreed. So Kuresa and one of the spiritual masters of Swami Ramanuja, who goes by the name Periyanambigal, so these two accompany the soldiers to the court of the king. Now, from just a normal world perspective, this may feel as Swami Ramanuja moving out. Why didn't he go to Srirangam? But we have to understand that it's all a part of the Lord's plans. Had Swami Ramanuja been in Srirangam for a long time, he wouldn't be able to spread his philosophies, the Sri Vaishnava philosophy, to people in the other parts of the country. So what happens is, Swami Ramanuja, he moves out of Srirangam, he goes towards Karnataka, that is from Tamil Nadu towards Karnataka. That is where he reaches this place, Hoysala. And after that, Swami Ramanuja actually establishes the Lord Tirunarayana temple in Melkote. In fact, this was our topic a few episodes back, where Swami Ramanuja establishes this Tirunarayanapuram temple, and to search for the festive deity, he goes to the northern part of India, Delhi, from where he fetches the festive deity from a Muslim ruler there. When he was in these parts of Karnataka, Melkote, Tondanur, he did a lot of people approached him. So that way he was able to explain his philosophies to people in the other parts of India as well. So whatever happens in the life of Mahatmas especially is part of the Lord's plan. They accept it as the Lord instructing them personally in every stage of life. That way Lord is guiding us as well, but we, due to our egos, because of our false pride, we are not able to see the Lord's guidance, whereas Mahatmas can see the Lord's instructions as it is. So that was one part where Swami Ramanuja moves to the Karnataka territory. Here Kuresa and Periyanambigal, they approach the court of this Chola king. Now when they are in the court, the Chola king first welcomes them. He says he wants to hear some good talks on religion, philosophies. When Kuresa, disguised as Swami Ramanuja, tells the king that he regards Vishnu as the greatest Lord. This was just a fact which he was saying, his opinion, let us say, his teaching. But the king couldn't bear to hear this. That is where the intolerance kicked in. I mean, he was already intolerant towards the devotees of Lord Vishnu, and when he heard this, so he flew into a rage and he asked the disguised Swami Ramanuja, Kuresa, to sign a declaration that there is no God who is superior to Lord Shiva. That is, he worshipped Lord Shiva, he regarded him as the ultimate. Fine, he could regard Lord Shiva as the ultimate God, but there was absolutely no need for him to sign a declaration that it has to be applied to the entire kingdom. Now, when he did this, Kuresa refused to sign such a declaration. So, the king, now he was burning with rage. He asks his soldiers to pull out the eyes of Kuresa and Periyanambigal. Such a narrow-minded king, such a cruel-hearted king who couldn't tolerate any different view than what he followed. So this is kind of a particular trait of people who are religiously intolerant. They cannot bear different views. They cannot accept different paths. Fine, they need not accept, but they can follow their own path. But to physically cause harm, to criticize, to use force, all these are unfair. Everyone would agree. So when this happens, Kuresa, he is a devoted disciple of Swami Ramanuja. He asks the soldiers to wait. He faces the king and tells him, "What, your soldiers would come and pluck my eyes? These eyes, who has seen an evil king like you? These are not fit for devotional services anymore," saying that he himself plucks his eyes out. Now, with both these great saints losing their eyesight at the hands of this cruel king, or because of the circumstances created by this cruel king, they come out of the palace and they are on their way to Srirangam. Now, on the way, Periyanambigal, who was the spiritual master of Swami Ramanuja, he, because of his old age and because of the pain inflicted, he could no longer bear that pain, and unfortunately he breathes his last on the way. His final rites are then done by Kuresa there, and then Kuresa returns to Srirangam. Now, this was the connecting story, though very painful. Now, this story will be the base for our next two Bhakti Rahasyams, that is number 60 and 61. So, what do we learn from this particular episode? This incident has a lot of similarities to many such incidents going on in our nation today as well as in the world outside. So, unless people start accepting or being tolerant towards divergent views, the world will have to wait for being a better place. Unless people accept that there are views other than their paths also, and that is fine. They need not follow this path, but they should not create obstacles for others to follow their paths. The world will have to wait for becoming a peaceful place. And what to say about the devotion of Kuresa and Periyan Ambigal, who just like that, casually, they gave up, they sacrificed a huge extent for their beloved Swami Ramanuja. Kuresa knew at the outset when the soldiers came that something harmful is going to happen, and he wanted to protect his guru. And what to say about the old and the wise Periyan Ambigal, who also sacrificed his life for his greatest disciple. So we have had great saints in this great land, but equally we had these share of painful, intolerant stories, which, though it makes the saints even more greater, it highlights their qualities, it actually shows their true qualities to the world, and can be a learning for how we can behave in our day-to-day life. Yet, there is a big need for change, for transformation in the hearts of people in terms of acceptability and tolerance. So that was our episode number 60, which we just laid down the plot, and the Bhakti Rahasyams would follow in the next episode. So stay blessed, stay devoted, and stay tuned for our next Bhakti Rahasyam. Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha.